So recently I've seen a huge trend in the fitness community about people talking about training intensity, and I feel like everyone is talking about it incorrectly, and so many people have a misconception about how hard they need to train to maximize muscle growth. So I figured I'd make a presentation so you know exactly how hard you need to train to maximize hypertrophy. Before I get started with the presentation, if you're looking for programs, I have multiple programs. I have a 90-day aesthetic body blueprint, a 120-day peak athleticism package, and one-on-one coaching. The 90-day aesthetic body blueprint is aesthetic and hypertrophy focused. The 120-day peak athleticism package is obviously performance focused, and both of these will have monthly workouts, access to my private community, and weekly Q&A calls. And if you're someone who thinks they'd benefit more from one-on-one coaching, I have one-on-one coaching as well. All these will be in the description. So for new viewers, who am I? My name is Martin Rios. I have a Bachelor of Science in Exercise Science. I have the physical therapy version. I was in school for 5 years and also have been doing studying on my own to make sure I give you guys the best possible information. And my goal is to make fitness great again through athletic bodybuilding so you can have your dream physique while improving functionality and athleticism as well. So as I said earlier, there is a big trend in terms of training intensity in the fitness community, and I feel like everyone is kind of doing this train as hard as possible kind of mentality when they're in the gym. A lot of people will post videos where they'll say, if you don't look like this, you aren't training hard enough, and it has people doing sets of certain exercises and going super hard, and sometimes even making these fake faces to make it look like they're training even harder than they actually are. And there's a big misconception that you have to look like that or look somewhat like that to be training hard enough to maximize hypertrophy. This is one of the sayings I like to use. Just because something is harder doesn't mean it's more effective. Just because something looks cool doesn't mean it's more effective. A pretty extreme example I like to use is driving with your eyes closed. Just because you're driving with your eyes closed doesn't mean it's more effective and will help you be a better driver. It definitely won't help you be a better driver. Another example is doing a squat on a Bosu ball. Squatting on a Bosu ball is harder than squatting on a firm surface. Is it better? No. For hypertrophy, power, and strength development, it's not better. It's far worse. So just because something is harder, just because something looks cool, doesn't mean it's more effective. A common thing that these people preach is training every set to failure, which I'll go into in depth in a little bit. And they also use a lot of intensity techniques. So these will include drop sets, supersets, which are actually compound sets. Supersets are when you do one muscle and then do a different muscle afterwards. Compound sets are when you hit the same muscle twice, so that's like an incline bench press followed by a flat bench press. But people seem to always use the word superset for that, so that's why I put superset and then put compound sets over here in parentheses. Drop sets are when you do a certain amount of weight and then you drop the weight and then instantly go with a lighter load. Then assisted reps, these are when you have a partner and they help you do a couple extra reps. So essentially, a good example is using a bench press. Let's just say you've been doing a couple reps of bench press and all of a sudden you can't really get much of a good rep in a bench press. Your partner will help you go all the way up, and then you'll essentially do a couple of those where your partner is assisting you towards the end of the movement, and then also partial reps as well. So with these intensity techniques, I'll go over them a little bit. Honestly, partial reps are probably the best one in my opinion. Supersets are good. Compound sets in my opinion are not good, but partial reps are pretty good, like long length partials, as long as you don't overdo it. But I'll go in depth in a little bit. So why training every set to failure or past failure, which I discussed with the intensity techniques, is stupid. Increased injury risk. So if you're going past failure or to failure, you're going to have increased injury risk. You're pushing your muscles past the limit that they can go to. So a lot of the times your joints will take the load, your tendons will take the load, and you'll use poor technique to try and get the weight up. So you'll have an increased injury risk if you take everything to failure or past failure. You have worsened recovery, and this also heavily taxes the CNS. When it comes to building muscle, you got to make sure that you train hard, but also allow your muscles time to recover. If you're taking every set to failure, it's going to require a longer recovery time. This could impact future sessions, and also your CNS will be heavily taxed. Your CNS is required to efficiently recruit muscle fibers. So if your CNS is fatigued, this will impact future sessions regardless of what muscle you were training to failure or past failure. So this is a terrible option because if you're going every set to failure or past failure, this is going to affect the muscle group you're working and also other muscle groups, and this won't even discuss all the other symptoms of CNS fatigue that you can have that can actually impact daily activities as well. You'll also have diminished training volume. Let's just say someone is like a cross-country runner and they do a 200-meter sprint as fast as possible. The distance they can run and the speed they can run that distance is going to decrease because you gas yourself out at the beginning. That's essentially what training to failure will do. If you go every set to failure, especially the early ones, then that will affect the amount of volume you can do later in your workout. So if you're doing a squat and you take every single set to failure on squats, let's just say you have 4 sets of squat and you take the first 2 to failure, then the next 2 are going to heavily be impacted, and that's not even discussing the other exercises you do later in the workout that will also be heavily impacted. Bottom line, training to failure or past failure takes a huge toll on your body for really no reason and really no gain. Now back to the intensity techniques like the drop sets, assisted reps, and partial reps. All of these take a huge toll on your body for no real gain. All of these are not better than a typical straight set done with good intensity. A drop set won't be better than a typical straight set done with good intensity. With the drop sets in particular, if you have a good drop set, so that means the second set is also pretty good, that just means your first set was not intense enough. When it comes to assisted reps and partial reps, like I said before, if you save them towards the end of your workout, that's okay. But assisted reps and partial reps should be used sparingly, especially the assisted reps. And with those, you're training past failure with those. I would consider that past failure for really no gain. Work smarter, not harder. So when it comes to how hard you should train, you should stop 0 to 3 reps shy of concentric muscular failure. The reason why I put concentric muscular failure is because a lot of people like to do all those intensity techniques to kind of force a couple extra reps in there. So some people like to call it forced reps as well. So the intensity techniques will help you get some forced reps in there. So that's why I put concentric muscular failure. So the amount of weight that you can lift. The reason why this is better is because you'll get similar results as training to failure every single set without excessive fatigue. You want to use failure sparingly. There's a reason why I put 0 to 3 reps shy of concentric muscular failure, because going to failure is a good thing, but you just don't want to do it every single set. So again, stop 0 to 3 reps shy of concentric muscular failure and focus on progressive overload. I think focusing on progressive overload kind of makes everything super easy because you know that you're training intense. Progressive overload essentially forces you to train more intense. Let's just say you do 225 on squats last week, and then this week you do 235. That is increasing the intensity regardless of if you feel more fatigued or not because you're using more weight. At the end of the day, focus on progressive overload, stop 0 to 3 reps shy of concentric muscular failure, and use failure sparingly. Training intense is not that difficult, it's not that complicated, and just because something is harder doesn't mean it's more intense. So hopefully this presentation helped you get a better understanding of how hard you truly need to train to maximize muscle growth. I recently made a video going over popular fitness influencer Marlon Israel's dumbest exercises, which you should check out.